So I've always kind of felt like party platforms aren't necessarily that helpful or telling about the political parties when you're in a political climate where the politicians don't really even have that much party discipline. And furthermore, politicians, they always say one thing and then do another. So they don't really tell us that much about the party. However, they are helpful in giving us some insight into what types of voters the parties are trying to appeal to. So when you look at the Democratic platform, thanks to Bernie Sanders, there are many progressive elements. So they're endorsing a $15 minimum wage, they're supporting a road to marijuana legalization. But when you contrast that with the GOP's 2016 party platform, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. They're basically putting up the crazy person bat signal and saying, come on in to the GOP, the doors are open to you. And it's just embarrassingly stupid. So Time explains the GOP party platform designates pornography a public health crisis because masturbation is a transcendent threat to American wellness that obviously must be addressed. Well, obviously. It supports so-called sexual conversion therapy for minors, even as every mainstream mental health and medical organization discredited the repugnant practice decades earlier. It marks children reared in a traditional two-parent household as inherently superior to those reared outside the Leave It to Beaver dynamic, even as reputable science demonstrates otherwise. Hopefully that's enlightening to you guys, because did you not know that masturbation and pornography is a public health crisis? Guns are okay, that's not hurting anybody, but pornography, we got to get rid of that. Okay, so it also declares pornography as a public menace that's especially harmful to children. Well, it's not intended for children, dumbass. That's the whole point, 18 and over. So what you can take away from this is that the party is pretty puritanical, right? They're very pure, they're very, they got their nose in the air, they're against porn, they think it's a public health crisis. Well, keep that in mind as I read to you this next headline. Quote, strip clubs get ready for Republican convention. Look, you can't make this shit up. The joke writes itself. There's also a comedy piece by The Onion where gay prostitutes were gearing up for the Republican convention because, that's when they get a surge in business. Now, there's also an anti-gay parenting element, which is just factually and scientifically inaccurate, because even though they tout opposite sex households as inherently superior, is what they said, well, the studies show that there is no difference between parenting, and if anything, children of lesbians actually see higher levels of scholastic success, and they have higher levels of self-esteem and self-confidence. So if anything, if you really care about the children like you say you do, well, then you would hail lesbians as the best parenting option, but they don't care about that. They have an agenda. It's anti-gay. They hate gay people. Now, the author of the Time piece that I just read to you is actually a gay Republican, and this next line demonstrates just how pathetic the GOP is. He says, quote, the committee separately rejected a positively mild resolution designed only to encourage dialogue on the virtue of same-sex marriage, even a year after the United States Supreme Court affirmed the fundamental right of every American to wed the person of their choosing. And yet, there remains cause for hope that a resolution to acknowledge the diversity of sincerely held opinions on marriage was even offered is cause for hope that it garnered support of 1/4 of the panel, when only 3 years earlier the same group unanimously passed expressly anti-gay provisions, is cause for hope that it would be offered by the first openly gay member of the platform committee is cause for hope. Couched in a historical perspective, these are genuine indications of progress. The fact that only 3/4, the overwhelming majority of the committee, shot down, a resolution that just encourages dialogue on marriage equality, it just gives me so much hope, guys. Maybe by 2090, they'll actually come around to the idea of full marriage equality. Who knows? So, this is a good sign. As a gay Republican, you should rejoice. This is so pathetic, and I feel like a dick for making fun of him, but come on, dude. I don't understand why there's gay Republicans. You have Gary Johnson. He is a fiscally conservative, socially liberal person who will agree with you on economic issues, but agrees with you also on social issues. So I feel like it's a win-win to go with Gary Johnson. Why support a party that hates you? It doesn't make sense. I've never understood the log cabin Republican or, quote, go proud. It just doesn't make any sense. They don't like you. And the one gay committee person was quoted as saying, why am I even here? They shot down everything. Now, here's my favorite part about this whole thing. So, according to the New York Times, an amendment to specifically recognize that gay people are targets of the Islamic State caused a stir among more conservative delegates who said they felt there was no need to single out any one group. As the delegate who offered the amendment, Giovanni Ciccione of Rhode Island argued his case by saying he believed it was an innocuous and important way to tell gay people the Republican Party does not exclude them. Another delegate moved to shut off the debate. Okay, it's confirmed that this party is only trying to appeal to people 100 years of age and up. I mean, the fact that you can't even admit that gay people are targets of ISIS in Iraq and Syria when that's factually undeniable, but you don't even want to have a debate about it. And you also are just declaring that they're targets of ISIS to say, hey, gay people, see, we care about you. We acknowledge that, extremist terrorist organizations want to kill you. That's your one way of reaching out to us. And even then, you don't want to have a debate about it. Now, finally, they're also calling for a constitutional amendment to ban marriage equality. They've done nothing to change. And in the 2012 autopsy report, they acknowledged that they lost because they're not appealing to socially liberal conservatives. And if you look at it, the writing has been on the wall for decades. Over 60% of millennial Republicans support the idea of marriage equality. So who are you trying to appeal to? And also, Tony Perkins, the huge bigot from the hate group, the Family Research Council, he actually had a huge say on the GOP platform. So congratulations, great job. You're surely going to lure in a ton of young conservatives. Now, the platform also demands that lawmakers use religion as a guide when legislating and that man-made law must be consistent with God-given natural rights. So not only are they endorsing fairy tales, they are endorsing the idea of a theocracy, thus violating the First Amendment because, again, government shall make no law establishing a religion. So when you say this, you're explicitly establishing a religion. You're saying, if you're a GOP member, if you're part of our party, well, you can't legislate unless Jesus approves of it. So are you going to ban shellfish? Are you going to ban clothing of mixed linens? I'd be in violation of that right now. I mean, this is just so stupid. Now, it also encourages the teaching of the Bible in public schools. It seeks to limit types of bathrooms transgender people could use because, of all the issues in the world, we're worried about where you go to the bathroom, where you take a dump. Now, they also call for a wall on the southern border, even though net immigration from Mexico is literally less than zero, and many people actually don't even cross the border. They come over and they overstay their visas. That's how many people are actually undocumented immigrants and how they decided to stay. So I guess that's a great way to spend the money instead of, feeding people, feeding the poor. Let's spend it on a wall. So fiscally irresponsible, so irrational. Now, here's the thing. I get criticized by many liberals and rightfully so. I think it's a legitimate criticism because I only criticize the Democratic Party. They say, Mike, look at the GOP. They're so crazy. Why don't you actually call them out? That's the point, though. For me, the way that I see it, we only have one viable political party in the country. That's the Democrats. So I don't write them off entirely. They have a lot of work to do. They're a terrible party, but there are some rays of light that I can see. There's potential. But when it comes to the Republican Party, they're not even viable. They're so far off the spectrum. They're so irrational, so extremist. There's no chance that I would ever vote for anyone in the party. Even the best Republican is far worse than the worst Democrat. There's no hope for the Republican Party. So that's why I criticize the Democrats and just completely ignore the Republican Party. And, if you disagree with that, that's fine. But it's because when I criticize Democrats, I'm trying to be constructive and hope that they can change their policies to appeal to liberal voters since we only have one viable political party. But the reason why I completely ignore Republicans most of the time is because they're just insane. And this proves it right here.